Hello, our Spice Focus as Nottingham Forest face a game against another seemingly unlikely Champions League contender tomorrow. Few would have predicted the Reds and Bournemouth would be in the race by now, but that is reality with an exciting clash ahead on the South Coast. So joining me to give us the opposition view this week is Back of the Net podcast contributor and Cherries fan, Matt Davies. Always good to have we're saying that. Always good to have a Matt Davies on the podcast. How are you doing, mate?
Yeah, I'm well, Matt. Yeah, very well indeed. How about you?
It's good. I'm good. I mean, we were saying before we started how great it's going for Forest. It's good to have you back on. Of course, you were here before the start of the season, and you were joking on WhatsApp when we set this up that basically none of us saw this coming. But it's been a great season for you guys as well. You're seventh on 37 points. We're third on 44 points. What's been kind of the story of your season? Why has it been so successful, do you think?
I think you can put a lot of it onto the manager. I think the style of football that he plays is a big factor in that. Obviously, you've got to have the players to implement that style of football and his tactics. But I think in reality, they've just been above and beyond a lot of other managers in the Premier League, which is a hell of an accolade to such a young manager that's come across from Spain and has had to learn his trade really and adapt to the Premier League like he has over the past sort of 18 months. But that's very much been the case. And I think we're playing a brand of football and a style of football, which, let's be honest, a lot of teams this season, not just the teams down the bottom end of the table, but the so-called bigger teams, the bigger fish in the league, have struggled to cope with. And that's been the case both home and away. And I think so that's been a major factor. But we have got some real quality about us as well. We've got some really great young players mixed in with a little bit of experience within the squad. And I think it's just all come together, really. Everybody knows their jobs, Matt, within our side is one thing I noticed. So when Iraola sets us up, there's not a player in the team that's lost in the formation or with the tactics. Everybody knows their jobs inside out. And when you can implement that and knit that together as a team, then that can be quite something. And it's obviously, amounts to more than the sum of your parts, doesn't it? And that's been a major factor for us, I think, this season.
It's interesting you say that. That's a phrase we've used a lot about us. Everyone knows their role. Everyone knows the tactics inside out. I'm sure there's some similarities between our journeys this season. There's some similarities as well. And from what I've seen of Bournemouth, we like to, both sides are dangerous on the counter attack. Bournemouth's tactics I find fascinating. Like they're really high pressing, but they'll go long, they'll mix it up. Talk to us a little bit more about the tactics and why you think they're so effective.
Yeah, I think they're unpredictable, the tactics. You hear a lot about it being organised chaos. I think that's one phrase that's used quite widely with us, which is probably quite accurate. So teams think that they've worked us out, but our aim is very much each game to create that organised chaos. So yes, we'll press at points, but it's very much what I would call a controlled press. So we'll know when to press, and we'll know also when to sit back into our shape, whatever that shape might be against the opposition that we come up against. So again, you have to credit the manager and the coaching staff for that, to be able to implement that and get that message across to the players for them to then act it out and execute it perfectly is brilliant, really. So you have to credit the manager and the coaching staff for that. But yeah, it's very much we try and strangle the life out of teams. I think you saw that at Newcastle on Saturday. Mm-hmm. It would be very easy for us to have gone up there and just sat back a little bit, try and weather a bit of a storm from Newcastle, keep their crowd quiet. But it was quite the opposite. We went for the jugular really from minute one, and I think that shocked them. I don't think they quite expected us to do that. Put them on the back foot. We had a couple of opportunities early doors. Obviously, getting the early goal helped. And then from that point on, we were controlling the game from minute 1 to minute 90 really, and it was a comprehensive victory.
Yeah, I watched that game, and you bang on about the start, and I think the start will be interesting in this one. Any annoyance on your part that slightly patronisingly potentially pundits already talking about Iraola? He'll be the next Spurs manager and stuff like that. Does that wind you up as a Bournemouth fan?
No, we're used to it. if you got wound up by that day in, day out, then you really would be, and you'd have no hair left, would you? And you really would be quite an angry, bitter person. So a lot of it goes over your head, particularly from my point of view. I used to bite online. I used to go on Twitter, as it was known back then, and bite at people. But I thought, in the end, what's the point? Just let them think what they think, and we'll do our talking on the pitch, and hopefully keep growing as a football club.
Do you give your club credit as well for sticking with Iraola? It's been brilliant, obviously, for the vast majority of it. But I remember when he came in, he had a very slow start. Probably lesser chairman or directors of football, whoever it was, they might have pulled the trigger then. Do you give them credit for backing him?
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, I think I might have said on the pod back in August when we were playing each other on the opening day, just before that it didn't sit easy with me. The fact Gary O'Neill had kept us up, and I like Gary O'Neill. I think he's an honest man. He's a good man, good football man. He kept us in the league. The brand of football wasn't particularly easy on the eye, a little bit negative at times, but he'd done a great job. So I felt that he deserved a chance to lead us the next season. So when that snap decision was made, didn't sit easy. And then this fella comes along and you think, who's that? Never even heard of him. So it wasn't a decision that sat easy with, and it divided the fan base. It really did. And of course, it took time for him to get going, and it was result after result that wasn't going our way. And you're thinking, he's got to be near the sack now. He's got to be right near the sack. We're right at the bottom of the table. How much longer can he go on? We managed to get a win. I think it was home to Burnley. We managed to skank out a 2-1 win, thanks to a Phil Billing wonder goal. And it just, from that moment on, that you could just see the confidence in the belief in the players grow. And then in the manager as well, because he must have been doubting himself as well, the decision that he'd made. We're all human beings at the end of the day. So there's a mental aspect to this, a psychological aspect. And you could just see that, within the management, the coaching staff and the players on the pitch, it's just grown and grown from there, really. So, yeah, credit to the board. In answer to your question, Matt, real credit to the board. But they'd made that decision, which was a big decision to make at the time. So you'd like to think that they would, give it time and make sure that they gave it every opportunity for it to succeed, because they backed him, they believed in him, they brought him in. So you've got to stick with it, haven't you?
Yeah, I think so. And, as you say, fair play to them. Bringing it back to more recent times, your squad is, it's strong, but it's weakened at the moment, I think, isn't it? Evan Nielsen's injured, Enes Unal's injured. So you let Billing and Max Aarons go as well. I'll ask you about that in a sec. But are you worried that eventually this will bite, even potentially in this game? Because your bench at Newcastle, I'll be honest, I'd only heard of one of the subs myself.
I honestly thought, Matt, that it was a game too far for us on Saturday. I was saying to various individuals, I think this is a game too far. I fear the worst today. I really do. We went to Chelsea in midweek last week, obviously, and managed to get a 2-2 draw, where we arguably should have won that game 2-1 up to the 95th minute, with a team really lacking in quality and experience, not just on the pitch, but if, like you rightly say, Matt, you look at the bench, they're all academy players on the bench. They've got no Premier League experience at all, any of them. And in between that, in amongst that, we've let the likes of Phil Billing, Max Aarons go, as you say. So it's a real concern. And it just depends, I think, how quickly we can get players back, because I think there's probably 3 or 4 players that are on the verge of returning now. But it just depends how quickly we can get them back and how quickly we can bed them back into the pace and power of Premier League football, really. And whether we can do any business in the next sort of week or so in the January window. But going into this Saturday, I don't know how many players that we're going to have available to us, whether anybody is even close to coming back. I think we'll probably find out a bit more tomorrow during Andoni Iraola's press conference. But as it stands, and I think we might have said the same last August, actually, when we'd lost Dominic Solanke and we had certain players missing, it seems like a good time to play us.
Oh, I don't know if it is. Well, I'll ask about that as well in a minute. With Billing and Aarons, then, I mean, was that PSR related? I asked that because Forest fans will want to know if you are going to do business, because you are European rivals as well. So are you a bit strapped for cash? Well, not strapped for cash. Are you strapped for PSR headroom then at the moment, do you think, or not?
No, I don't think so. No, I don't think that's the case. Obviously, we got some good money in for Dominic Solanke last summer. Yes, we replaced him, but we made profit on that. I think our recruitment in recent times has been really, really good. But we haven't been too lavish. We haven't been spending millions and millions of pounds lately, particularly in the last window. So I think there is an opportunity to maybe do that a little bit this window. I think our hand's been forced a little bit, Matt, obviously with the injuries to Evan Nilsson and Ines Unal, means that we've got no recognised number 9, and we've got Dango Ouattara playing the role at the moment. So I think our hand is a little bit forced there, but I don't think it's PSR related. No, I think the players themselves, Phil Billing and Max Aarons, deserve to be playing first team football somewhere. And the fact of the matter is they're just not going to get it here anymore. I just think the style of play that Iriola plays, his tactics, his style, and the players that they are, it just doesn't quite suit. I think Max Aarons is down the pecking order at right back, even though we've got the injuries there at the moment. And Phil Billing, he's been brilliant for us over the years. Bit of an enigma. You never know what you're going to get from him. Unpredictable, to say the least. Questionable attitude at times. And I think that's a factor. And I think the club and the manager have taken the view that, look, if we can potentially get transfer money for these players and move them on, then we got to take the opportunity to do so. Not just for us as a club, but you're thinking about the players as well. They need a move. They need football.
Do you want them to buy a striker then? Because I watched the Chelsea game and he played really well. I watched the Newcastle game and I thought Ouattara, he looked like a striker, not a winger doing a job. Semenyo is really good. He has so many shots. He should score more goals. He was the bane of my fantasy team for a while. And Cliver will score a hat trick and then not score for 5 games. But he's a really good player. Do you want to sign a striker, or do you think you've got enough in attack without them?
Well, if you'd have asked me that question a few weeks ago when the injuries come about, I would have said absolutely, and I would have said our season's pretty much a good job. We've got enough points, accumulated to be safe, because you can forget about European dreams and things like that now. Both strikers in. Even when Elsin got injured, I still wasn't sure about Ines Unal as a replacement there. I still felt we probably needed to get one in. Then when Unal gets injured the next day, you're thinking, wow, we definitely need someone. However, having seen us the last couple of games, you're sort of thinking, well, could we get through? I personally think we need to bring someone in, of real quality, because Dango Ouattara, let's get it in perspective. He's still a very, very young football and quite new, quite raw, new to the Premier League. We only signed him a couple of years ago. He's very much a work in progress. Very, very unpredictable as well. Very frustrating at times. We've played him at left back, would you believe? We've played him on both wings. We played him in the 10, I think. And he's now a number 9. So he's played everywhere across the pitch. What you get with Dango Ouattara is he's an unknown quantity. You never quite know what he's going to do. However, I do believe that Iriola, as he's done with so many players, is bringing his game on. He is adapting him. He's moulding him into what he wants him to be, and he is progressing him. Whether he can play that 9 role for the remainder of the season or for however long even Nilsson's out, quite a considerable amount of time, is another question for me. And I think, we do need to bring somebody in if we possibly can.
I just wanted to ask you about the other end of the pitch as well before we talk about this game and your views on Forest. Your recruitment you referenced there is fantastic. Like Zabani, Dean Hyson, who I think played in the first game against us and looked really good. I remember. I think Senesi was injured, and then Kirkes. They're all young. I don't know where you found them all from, but your recruitment is excellent. Obviously, would you back that defence to shut down at the weekend or not?
I think it'll be a key battle, and I would imagine we'll get on to where we see the key battles and the key areas. But I think keeping Chris Wood quiet and seeing how Zabani and Housen, or one of those two at least, manage Chris Wood will be key, and also how we can look after your wingers as well. But I would have every they've been outstanding. We're missing Adam Smith at the moment, who's probably our first choice. Well, is our first choice right back due to his experience. He's in his 30s, but he's sort of defying the odds really with his age, because his energy is still constant. He's picked up an injury, so that was the experience head in the back line. We have got Kepa behind us in goal, who carries a lot of experience really, even though he's 29 or whatever he is, record fee for a goalkeeper, and he's coming into his own now. But the three of them, I think Kirkes, Zabani and Housen have been outstanding, and for their age, they really have. And it shocked me actually how good they've been. When you take into account, I think Housen's debut was against you in August on opening day. He's 19 years old, I mean, it's just incredible the way he reads the game, his physicality, his strength, the way he wins his duels, what he does with the ball, how he looks after the ball, how he, his positional sense. He's got everything about him really to be a really, really top class centre half. Has Zabani as well, who's only 21, by the way, coming up 22. And Kirkes at left back, he'll get up and down all day. I mean, you saw the goal at Newcastle, that was in the 96th minute. And he's gone from his own penalty box to Newcastle's box and smacked one in the bottom corner. And he's improved no end defensively this season as well. We can now rely on him as a proper defensive left back as well as an attacking one. So, yeah, I'm confident in the back line. I'm confident in the goalkeeper now. I think there was question marks over Kepa when he joined us because we felt, Mark Travers was mysteriously gone to Arsenal on loan just to sit on their bench as a number 2. So Mark Travers stepped up, and he's done that time and time again, Mark Travers, where he's sort of stepped in, done a good job, and then been booted on for a so-called better keeper after a few games, which he's a young keeper who's been harshly dealt with, really. But Kepa is now showing that he is the real deal as a keeper, and it's come into his own, certainly in recent times.
I should just say, as we record this, Chris was just officially signed his 2-year contract extension, which we kind of knew was happening yesterday, but obviously great news for us on the back of the Murillo deal as well. Just before I get Matt's thoughts on Forest and this game a little more specifically, then a quick word for the Trent navigation. Just a reminder, coming up on the 1st of February with the early kickoff, so straight down the nav afterwards, you can enjoy the show with the Fun Boy too. And also they do open at 9 a.m. so you can enjoy all the build up and get your breakfast obviously before the pre-match show with Fothers. Right. How are you viewing this game? How are Bournemouth fans viewing it as well, I guess, Matt? Because like I say, you're 7 points behind us. If we win, the gap's 10, and I kind of feel that's a lot to bridge. Obviously, if you win, it's 4, and you're probably feeling you are right in the Champions League battle then, aren't you?
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, it's obviously a big game. It's a game that we could, all joking aside, we could never have predicted at the start of the season we'd be in this situation. We probably thought it would be a little bit of a relegation battle, although, as I think I said at the start of the season, I always felt both clubs would be more than okay this season. I felt that you had some real quality within your squad, which hadn't sort of fully developed to its fruition yet, and I rate the manager. So I felt you'd be absolutely fine this season, and I felt we would as well. But to see us both where we are, I mean, how we're viewing it is, personally, I'm viewing it as a game that obviously we can win. We're at home. We've gone to Newcastle last week and won 4-1. We've taken a point off Chelsea. We're unbeaten in 10. So you have to view it that approach it like you can win it. However, I'm still concerned about the strength and depth of our squad at the moment. So I think a draw wouldn't be the worst result in the world for us, but I think you're right, Matt. Losing the game would be a blow, certainly to our any sort of Champions League aspirations that we might have, and it would be sort of a big boost to yours.
I don't normally show the graphics that we do as in the regular podcast, but I'll put this one up and get your thoughts on it. This is the fixtures coming up for the Champions League contenders. So we're both on there, which, as you say, is brilliant. Your fixtures are interesting because they look sort of favourable. Ours probably don't. Man City's don't. So do you think that these next 6 games are going to tell us a lot about where you'll end up, do you think, or not?
Yeah, quite possibly. I think after these next 2 games for us, Forest home and Liverpool home, I'd like to see where we're at after that, how many points we can pick up. But then you look at those next run of games, and realistically, probably should be looking to pick up 9 or 10 points from those. If you're a serious contender, I think you've got to be looking at it and thinking, yeah, we need 9 or 10 points added to maybe another 3. So we're looking at 10, 12 points maybe from those 6 games would be a great return, and that would keep us well in contention. I think looking at your fixtures, yeah, you've got a tricky 3 there. I mean, I'd look at those 3 as Newcastle away, Arsenal home, and Man City. Is that Man City? Yeah. Home. Yeah. They look massive. They look absolutely massive.
Yeah, we were saying we take the panel that was on yesterday we would say we take 8 points from those 6 games and still feel all right about it. Just for people who are listening, not watching, obviously we've got Bournemouth and Brighton coming up, and Bournemouth have got obviously us and Liverpool, and then the next 4 games are interesting. So Bournemouth in that time have got Southampton away, Wolves at home, Brighton away, Tottenham at home. We've got Fulham away, Newcastle away, Arsenal at home, and City at home, as everyone knows. So it puts a big emphasis on this game for us, I think, even though we're certainly in a good place. So looking at our team then, Matt, any players you particularly worry about? Any aspects of our game? We're so well known for the counter now, but anything that has you, on alert heading into this one?
Well, I've already waxed lyrical about our back four. I think yours, it's where you build your foundation. I think defensively, you've been superb, solid as a rock, really, and that's what Nuno does, doesn't he? He builds a foundation on defence first of all to make sure that you don't concede too many goals. And I think you've done that. With 2 outstanding, the whole back four and the goal. You found the goalkeeper as well, who's reliable, haven't you? Really. So that's been brilliant. I'm going to say what I said in August. I always worry about Morgan Gibbs-White. I think if you can keep him quiet and keep him out of the game as much as possible, then that's massive for me. And I think the key battle actually will be in midfield, because you like to strangle the midfield, really, don't you? When you press and outnumber the midfield. Yeah. So I think if we can win that battle, we've got Ryan Christie and Tyler Adams in there, who were, outstanding on Saturday at Newcastle, dominating the likes of Gimaresh and Tonali and Joe Linton, which I worried about before the game. That's where I thought we might fall down. But they were superb on Saturday with their, combative nature, the energy that they've got. So it'll be a question of whether we can do that. But Gibbs-White would be the worry. I mean, if we can win the midfield battle a little bit, obviously that negates the threat of Chris Wood, because you're not able to get the ball wide, get your wingers into play, pushing on our fullbacks and feeding Chris Wood. So for me, that's where the real battle is.
Tyler Adams is an interesting one, because I think we were legit interested in him before he signed for you guys. He's doing well now. Did you worry he was a dud? Because he's missed so much football. Is he coming to his own now?
Yeah, he has. I mean, he came from Leeds, and we were excited about it when we signed him. However, he was injured. We for the best part of well over a year, to be honest. So we couldn't make a judgment. And having paid a lot of money for him, you're sort of thinking, well, what's it? Is he ever going to be fit? But he's, touch wood, he seems to have now found his fitness. He's come through his injury problems, and he's superb. Yeah, he's everywhere. His physicality, again, how he reads the game, what he does with it. It's not just him breaking up play and winning the ball. It's what he does with it when he does win it back. And he wins it so well. All of the loose balls, the second balls, dispossessing players in midfield, the reading of the game, and looking after the ball once he's got it, are all second to none, to be honest. And it just complements what we've got there already in Ryan Christie. There's not room for all three, because we've got Lewis Cook as well. And Lewis Cook is, but I have to mention Lewis Cook. He's been superb in the midfield all season as well. However, he's had to go to right back because we've had no recognised right back for the last couple of games. But he's done a job there. He was asked to do a job at Newcastle at right back, a position he's never really played in his career. And I thought he was outstanding, all things considered. So, really pleased. The competition for places there is strong once we do get our injured players back.
Cook and Christie, two of the most underrated players in the league, especially Cook. I feel like he's sort of flirts with England recognition. Do you feel like they're they go under the radar a bit for the wider Premier League fan?
Yeah, definitely. I think he was on the fringe. He was within the England setup at one point a few years ago until he got a bad injury. Obviously, he was part of, I think, the under 17s side that won the World Cup, or the under 20 Cup. I can't remember. He was part of that England side. And then he's had some bad knee injuries, and you sort of thinking, he came back even in our championship season when we both went up. There was no real place for him. Scott Parker he was playing him as a number 8, then as a number 6, number 10 at times, and you were thinking he's just getting lost in the ether here, Lewis Cook. Who is he? What does he contribute? His career's, he's really getting lost and taking a downward turn. And credit to Gary O'Neill, first of all, for picking him up, I think, but certainly under Iraola, he's now flourishing again. And how he doesn't get recognised for England, I'll never know. There's certain players that do get recognised, like Mainu and other youngsters at bigger clubs. And I think Lewis Cook, deserves that recognition, really.
Any worry about this team being broken up? I think that'll be a topic that we seem to be avoiding with new contracts. Thankfully for us, are you worried that you might get a few picked off, or no? And would you be all right if another Solanke type sale happens if it's just one? How are you viewing the future?
Yeah, it's always a concern. I mean, not in this window necessarily, but at the end of the season, it depends what happens between now and the end. I mean, if we were to go on and get European football, you'd have to be concerned that there's probably 3 or 4 players there at least that would have some serious interest surrounding them, and the manager, of course. That would be an even bigger concern, or just as big a concern for me, is that clubs, big clubs across Europe, particularly in Spain and probably in the Premier League as well, would be looking at our manager if he was to achieve European football with us. So that's a concern. But look, we are where we are now, and I think we need to sort of try and emulate the Brighton model, probably similar clubs, really. Yes, they've got the infrastructure, they've got the stadium in place where we haven't, but we've now got the training ground in place. So we've got that structure that's ongoing now with the academy and how we're going to manage that side of things off the field. But they reinvent themselves, don't they? They'll lose their manager, they'll lose key players, but they'll recruit wisely behind that. So that's what we've got to keep doing now, and sort of emulate that model, really, to keep us competitive, I think.
Yeah, your training ground. I think I saw a video of your training ground. It looks amazing, to be fair. So yeah,
it's incredible. It's up there as one of the best, really, in the Premier League as a facility. Now we've got to follow on with the stadium, and that's not been finalised yet. There's a little bit of disappointment, I would say, about the plans. I think that we're being limited by the council at the moment, BCP Council, about the capacity. I think it's going to start at around sort of 18.5, 19, with a view to going up to 22.5. Which again is, for me, is a little bit underwhelming, and most of the fan base, because there is now, historically we've always been sort of a 3rd-tier football club, but there is now, for the last decade, we've been in the top 2 divisions, mainly the Premier League. There is that interest there now, families, kids across the conurbation. The conurbation itself is 500,000, as I think I said last time, and there's people, you lock in a generation of new fans out, really. And you see it in our cup games. We had West Brom in the cup recently, a couple of weeks ago. Crowd's still 11,000, but it's a completely different fan base. It's almost like we've got a cup fan base, and because that's the only opportunity they can get to come and see the team. And when you go to the stadium, you don't recognise anyone. They're all kids and with families and new fans that come along for the cup game because they can't get tickets for league games. So it'd be interesting to see what develops there.
So is it Bournemouth shirts around town now, not Chelsea and Liverpool shirts then?
Much more so. I mean, I've grown up. I've been a Bournemouth fan since I was 5 years old, and sort of lived in the area for long amounts of that time. And as a kid, it was always, you always had to have a second team, Premier League team, because everybody was like, yeah, but Bournemouth aren't a proper team, are they? They're a third division or whatever they were, League One, League Two. So you had to follow a Chelsea or a Liverpool or Man United just to fit in, really. Whereas these days you do see it. My wife works at a school behind us, a primary school, and they've all got Bournemouth. They're all Bournemouth shirts. And then you speak to them and say, "Oh, you going to the game Saturday?" No, I can't get a ticket, but I like to watch them. I watch them on the. You just think that is such a shame if we can't capitalise on that properly. It really is.
Yeah, similar to us as well. Well, you see that against Luton, we sold out the ground almost. Yeah. There were loads of different people there, so that's brilliant. Any final thoughts on this game? Would you? I don't think you're going to tell me you take a point, because you probably have every reason to believe you can win the game. But how are you feeling about it? Just to sum up.
Yeah, I'm looking forward to it. I don't honestly, if I'm being honest, think there's going to be too many goals. I think it'll be a tight game. I'm not sure that it's going to be a goal fest, if I'm honest. The way the two teams set up, I think primarily we'll look to sort of stop each other if we can. Because as you alluded to earlier, Matt, the style of play, well, it's not identical. There are a lot of similarities within it. So I think there might be a little bit of cancelling out there. I think it'll just be about who wants it more and who shows the most quality on the day, whoever edges it. And there's been a couple of draws in recent games between us. There's been nothing between us, really. So, yeah, if I was a neutral, I'd probably be edging towards a draw in this one. But obviously, as a Bournemouth fan, as you lot will as Forest fans, you'll be going into the game thinking you can win it. And whoever does win it, it would be a massive, massive win, wouldn't it? And a massive statement for the European credentials. But just to say, Matt, really, I mean, it's been phenomenal. And I know we've had a bit of friendly rivalry between the two clubs and a bit of banter that's gone on in the past, but I do have a lot of respect for what you've done there, and I said that it would take time for all of the transition that you've gone through since you got promoted, for it all to bed in and take shape. That was going to take time, and the fact that you survived in the league during that time and you're now flourishing, it is a surprise to see you where you are. But in some ways, it's not, because historically you are to me, you are a big football club. I mean, I grew up watching football in the 80s. And Nottingham Forest were a staple. They were always first division under Brian Clough, and you always they were one of those teams. My dad always loved Cloughie, and they played good football. You always like to see them doing quite well, because they obviously, you weren't the biggest club in the league, but you used to upset the Apple Cup, European Cups, and all the rest of it. And I was sort of thinking earlier of all those players from yesteryear that you can reel off, like your Des Walkers and Ian Wones and Steve Chettles, Gary Charles at right back, obviously Stuart Pearce, Roy Keane, all sorts of players that come to mind, along with the manager back in those days. So it is great to see, really. It's great to see you back there and up that end of the table.
Are you still in the FA Cup?
Yeah, we beat West Brom 5-1. Yeah, so we've got Everton away.
Oh, excellent. Well, I was going to say we'll do this again before the FA Cup final then, because I enjoy these conversations. So that'll be good. Look forward to it.
Yeah.
Look forward to it. We shall obviously have Matt back on next season, because neither of us are going to get relegated. But if you have enjoyed this one, do us a favour, hit like, hit subscribe, do consider channel membership or Patreon, or if not, just give us a lovely review on iTunes or Spotify. We shall be back tomorrow after the game at about 5:30 or 5:45 with Mark Southerns and Lewis McGugan. So do join us that if you can, but if not, we're back on Monday with former Reds defender Kelvin Wilson and a couple of the regulars to break down the game in more detail. Matt, thank you very much for coming on. Really appreciate that.
Yeah, pleasure, mate. Yeah, I've loved it both times. Good, great to talk football. Great to talk about the two clubs, and long may this continue, Matt.
Exactly. Long may this continue. Long may this continue. Right. Have a good evening, everyone. If we don't see you tomorrow, then hopefully we shall see you soon.